Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. Today, I have the lovely Liz Moore on, who is a wellbeing strategist. And we're going to dive into the importance of helping you with your physical health as well as your mental health, understanding how it impacts your nervous system. And obviously, I talk a lot about your nervous system, regulating your nervous system, helping you to be more open to receiving all of those things that you're calling in. So, Liz, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. Now, I know your journey didn't start off as being in kind of the well-being in the holistic approach, shall we say? But could you just tell our listeners about how you got started, like what you did before all of this?
Of course. So I was actually a medical doctor. I worked in the NHS for 11 years, predominantly in obstetrics and gynecology. So I've always sort of worked in women's health. Um, I loved it. It was a great career for a long time, but it was a lot. And yeah, basically, I hit burnout back in 2019. I was, as a lot of us are, juggling absolutely everything, really full on career. I have three children. At the time, they were very young, and then all the other things that life throws at you into the mix as well. It was a lot, and I wasn't looking after myself at all. It was always about other people. Whether that was at work or at home. There was never time for me. So I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't exercising, all of those things. And unfortunately, that led to burnout, which was, yeah, that was hard. Um, and I left the NHS. That wasn't, an overnight decision. It was something that for a long time I'd been thinking about doing. I think the crunch point was I was working nights. It was my daughter's birthday. I didn't see my daughter on her birthday. I was just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I was not feeling good in myself at all. And I had a bit of a mindset shift at that point, because what had kept me there for longer than maybe I'd wanted to was, I'd put in a huge amount of time and effort into that career. But when I turned that around and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm only going to put even more in if I stay, I was like, right, that's it. I'm done with this. So yes, I went home and I handed in my letter of resignation. So that was huge. And I went from, full-time NHS work to a full-time stay-at-home mum, which was, yeah, very different. It was lovely for lots of reasons, but it was very different to obviously what I've been used to. And it took me a very long time to work out what I wanted to do. It took me a long time to sort of untangle my identity from who I was as a doctor, because that had been such a big part of my life for so long. And then obviously we all hit the craziness of 2020 and, total chaos. And then I sort of started experimenting probably 20, end of 2020, 2021, and, what do I want to do for me? And I tried loads of different things. I did not want to go back into health and wellness at all. I was like absolutely adamant that that was not what I was going to end up doing. But obviously, during that time, I made loads of changes to my lifestyle as well. I knew to get over that burnout, I had to start prioritizing myself. I had to be eating better. I had to be exercising better. Mindset had to change totally. And then it just sort of gradually happened over time that I got called back into the sort of health and well-being side of things. And I just felt at that point that I needed to be able to share, all of my experience from having worked as a doctor, but also all of my experience from, healing myself from burnout. So I trained as a health coach. I trained to teach Pilates, face yoga. Went and did some training in Reiki healing. So I've definitely gone more, to the holistic side of things now. But it feels like the right thing to do. It feels like I can now use everything, the holistic, but also, the medical, in order to support women in looking after themselves and hopefully, help people not get to that burnout point that
Yeah,
I did. And that's
yeah.
the ultimate goal.
It's so good to have that blend of the two as well, that experience on both sides. Because I speak to a lot of people that are very much in the holistic side of wellness, and it is a science in itself, isn't it? And I think there's this almost, you need to be one or the other, but actually, when you can blend the two together, like
Yeah.
that just only creates more magic, and you can help people in like more deeper ways as well. In terms of burnout, I'd love to know from you, because I think for burnout, for a lot of people, it can either be a very um obvious thing where you can see someone is really at a rock bottom moment, in that they're just literally putting so much pressure on themselves, they're doing everything and they are at their like kind of lowest frequency stage. But for a lot of people, burnout can be a very hidden thing, and for me myself, I know it was very hidden. Like internally I felt like completely disconnected, I was at that rock bottom moment, but to everybody that saw me on the outside, you would never know. So I'd love to know, like, what did your burnout look like for you?
Well, it was the same for me. I think no one from the outside would have had any idea, other than my husband, who obviously saw the mess at the
Yeah,
end of the day. But, I was functioning and I was achieving well at work. The children were all doing well. I was there for all of the, kids stuff that needed to be done as well. So yeah, for me, it was very much internal, as well. And I think that's why it can be so difficult for people to identify that they might be on that path, to burnout, because they're just, they think, oh, this is just normal, that, I'm fine, I've got through another day.
yeah,
That's enough. And it's like, yes, there will be tough times, but every day shouldn't feel hard, and it shouldn't feel like that you are just trying to get through to the end of the day. But for me, yeah, burnout. I mean, I wasn't sleeping at all. Yes, I had young children, but even when they were sleeping, I was not sleeping. I would wake up multiple times a night in like cold sweats. It was just horrible. And I was having panic attacks basically, but like internal panic attacks. So no one from the outside could tell. But yeah, heart racing, just feeling like I was going to faint, that sort of feeling. And yeah, it was really, really tough.
yeah.
Um, but I think you're right. So many people, yeah, it's not obvious, from the outside what's going on, and I think a lot of people don't acknowledge how they're feeling.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because for the majority of people that kind of go into this holistic energetics kind of work, it does often come from experiencing that burnout, doesn't it? It's literally that moment of realization of, this cannot be my life. Like I have to do something about this. I have to change. When you are in that stage, or perhaps someone that's listening to this that thinks, do you know what? I'm going to hit burnout if I keep going like this, or maybe they're already in burnout. What would you recommend to somebody that is in that stage that they can maybe shift things? Like, what would be the first thing to look at?
Well, I think that acknowledgement is huge. That's definitely the first step, acknowledging that actually this isn't just a bad day, this is something more, um, is really powerful. And just knowing that it doesn't always have to be like that, and that there are things that can help. There are people out there that can support, you if you are struggling with burnout, or if you think you're on that trajectory. Couldn't quite say that word there.
I think you got it. I think you nailed
Try again.
it.
Heading towards burnout, there is support out there. I think that's the other thing to say. And, my message is that, you need to prioritize yourself. It is not a selfish thing to do. You are much more likely to be successful in your life, with your family, with your business, whatever it is, if you are putting yourself first and looking after yourself. Yes, maybe you can, burn the candle at both ends for a short period of time, but that is not sustainable. So just taking that pause, I think that's really important, acknowledging how you are feeling right now, and just thinking about, what are those things that I can do for me, and this is what I talk to, my clients about. It's, how can you eat well? How can you exercise well? How can you make those mindset shifts, but in a way that does fit in with your life. You know, we're all busy. We've got numbers of things that we need to do. It's not realistic to go, oh, I need to change absolutely everything about
Yeah.
my life. You know, it's about thinking small steps at a time, basically.
Yeah.
Start with one thing that you can commit to. And then once you've nailed that, you know, then you think about the next thing.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, it's taking that one thing. What would you recommend, or what helped you personally? What was that one thing that helped you get out of that burnout stage?
It's so hard thinking back now, like what that first step was, because I mean, I now have changed pretty much everything about what my life. I wouldn't, you know, I'm not recommending you do that in one go. I'm, you know, 6 years down the line now. So I think it's that mindset. I think it's the I am the priority, and that's not a selfish thing. I think once you can frame things like that, then when you do those things for yourself, you know, it's easier in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you know you understand the value in doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that I definitely found really helpful for me was just moving my body. So it didn't even necessarily need to be like full on exercise. I didn't need to do all the HIIT workouts and all the stuff that was being plastered all over. I think lockdown had a lot of
Mhm.
emphasis on all these HIIT workouts and really intensive home workouts. And actually, particularly for women that are going through hormonal fluctuations as well, that's not always the best thing to do, is it?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I could talk about this for a long time. I think so many of us have been taught that, you know, you're only exercising if you're getting your heart rate up, if you're getting sweaty, if you're, you know, doing that really, you know, intense workout. So much research is now coming out to suggest that actually the balance should be completely different. So in terms of the balance between low intensity and high intensity exercise, it should be about 80% low intensity exercise and only 20% high intensity exercise. And what I will say on top of that is if you are someone who is feeling stressed over all the time, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are thinking that you might be on that path to burnout, definitely avoid the high impact exercise because it's another stressor for your body, and your body reacts in the same way as any other, you know, stressful situation, which evolutionarily is a good thing. You know, we want our heart rate to increase, we want our breathing to increase, we want to, you know, divert the blood flow to the muscles so that we can run away from whatever that predator is, or, you know, we live in a completely different society now, but our body still reacts in the same way to these stressful situations. One of those is that high impact exercise. So if you're already experiencing all of this stress, you're putting another stress and strain on your body. You're just sending yourself into, you know, chronic fight or flight, that chronic sympathetic overdrive for your body. And then your body can't function properly. And anything else you're trying to do in terms of eating well, in terms of, you know, the movement, it is not going to be having any good impact at all because your body is just in that stressed state. You know, it's just in survival mode.
Yeah.
You need to get into a parasympathetic state, so that everything else has that opportunity to help support you.
Yeah. I mean, I love the more gentle exercise, and I think it's a real kind of wake up call for me when I started doing things like the yoga, and obviously I do the Pilates with you now, Liz.
Yeah.
But I think just doing those more gentle movements, not only is it's good because afterwards you feel like you've done some exercise. Like my legs were burning the other day from getting to Pilates. But when you're doing it, it's almost like a relaxing, it's a stress reliever in itself, isn't it? When you're doing that kind of movement.
Absolutely. And yeah, most people I work with, we look at what they are doing, if they are already doing things in the way of exercise, and we quite often have to think about that, shifting that balance. It's hard for a lot of people because, you know, when we grew up, as I said, you know, we were taught that it had to be that high impact exercise, or we're not working out properly. And as you say, it's yeah, we need that mindset shift again, but you still get huge benefits from doing that low impact exercise, you know, in terms of strength in your body, but also for your nervous system and for your mind.
Yeah. How can a lot of people that listen to this, or the majority of people, are women? They tend to be in that midlife kind of age as well. So we are having those hormone fluctuations, whether it is perimenopause or even menopause. How can our hormones impact how our nervous system is functioning and helping us, or rather, not helping us?
Oh my goodness, it's all related, absolutely. The body is amazing, isn't it? And everything is so finely balanced. So when you do have changes in your hormones, yes, your nervous system is affected. When you changes in your nervous system, your hormones are affected. It's, the detail is very, very complicated, obviously. But absolutely, as your hormones are changing, the way you are eating, the way you are exercising, that does need to change as well, to take into account the fact that there are differences in the hormones. And I think potentially it becomes more important thinking about how the nervous system plays a role in integrating with everything as well.
Yeah. And I think also it's really important to understand that diet and wellness and all the well-being, the exercise and everything, it's not about what it used to be deemed as, which was around weight loss, building muscle. For so much of it, it is just general everyday health, isn't it? It's actually putting yourself first and being the healthiest version of yourself, rather than you need to go to the gym to lose X amount of weight, or you need to eat this diet to shed these pounds in this particular area of your body. And it just think we're so overwhelmed with all that information now, aren't we? But actually, I think I am noticing more and more people that are talking about just general, all round physical and mental health in order to live your best life.
Exactly that. And I think that's so important. And I think it's about doing things now and not waiting to hit that crisis. And I think, again, historically, maybe people would wait until they had a sort of health scare, whatever it was, and then go, oh, now I need to change what I'm doing, and eat better and exercise more. Don't wait,
Yeah.
do it now. And you're right. It's about, being the best that we can be in ourselves, feeling good in ourselves. I never recommend people to calorie count or weigh themselves, or, anything like that. When you feel good, don't you? It's
Yeah.
sort of tuning into that intuition, and just, following the sort of general principles, to get yourself to a point where you feel great about who you are and how you look, and, whatever it is that's important to you.
Yeah. Do you recommend, in terms of where we have these hormone fluctuations, like if you're someone that has maybe found a diet that works well for you, maybe it is you've had intolerances that you didn't know about and you've managed to sort your diet out so everything feels good, you've got your exercise in there, you are making yourself priority. Are there going to be changes as our hormones fluctuate, as we grow and evolve and everything, that we'll need to adjust those things? Or is it kind of, I've found my process now, I'm good to go, I can keep on going?
I think most people will find that they need to change what they're doing over time. And that's amazing if people have found the thing that works really well for them, whatever that is. But yes, I think, as hormones change, I think people will find that it might not be huge changes that people need to make, but definitely people might need to think about tweaking things, in terms of, how they're eating, looking at the balance between protein and carbohydrates, and, healthy fats and those sorts of things. When they eat, the times of the day they eat. I know a lot of people think about like fasting windows and things like that. And again, that might need to change, along with hormones. Important things when we're thinking about hormone health is balancing your blood sugars. That's incredibly important. Thinking about your gut health. The gut is absolutely incredible. And it's only since I've stopped being a doctor that I've understood like so much more about the gut and about how important it is to look after the gut health. It's just linked to all other parts of the body. The immune system is in the gut. It's again, I could talk about that forever.
Just very quickly, then, just to talk about that in a bit more detail. How can we look after our gut? For someone that's listening to this thinking, oh, I didn't even think anything about my gut. I was thinking more about like what I need to wear to eat to avoid like bloating and all of these different things. Like maybe they're having other symptoms, whether it is acne or
Mm.
itchiness, like whatever it is they're having. But how can we look after our gut?
And that's could potentially all be related to the gut health, because the gut is so intricately linked. Oh my goodness, struggling to say that as well. To everything else in your body. So if you've got inflammation in the gut, you will have inflammation in the other parts of the body. If the gut lining is not functioning as it should be, it becomes leaky. You get things coming into the body that otherwise should have been excreted out of the gut. Hormone metabolism happens in the gut as well. So if your gut is not functioning properly, that's going to affect hormone balance as well. So things to think about for your gut are generally a sort of anti-inflammatory diet is going to be good for your body in general, and that's going to be good for inflammation in your gut. I think a lot of people know about like probiotics, sort of, the good bacteria for your gut. So within your gut lining, you've got, so many bacteria in your gut. And what you want are the right bacteria there, basically, because they play a role in all of those different functions that I've talked about. So the probiotics, you need to make sure you're, ingesting food that contains the probiotics. But I think the mistake that some people make is that they just have the probiotics. But what you need to do is you need to feed the probiotics. So you need to make sure you're having good amounts of fiber and prebiotics, which is the food that the probiotics eat, because if you're eating all of the refined sugars and that sort of thing and taking a probiotic, it's just, you're not feeding that probiotic, you're feeding the bad bacteria, and you just get into that cycle. So yeah, anti-inflammatory diet, probiotics, fiber, prebiotics, general principles for the gut.
Amazing. There's so much good stuff in this episode. I know a lot of people will be listening to this and saying, I know I need to do this, but I just don't have time. Because it's the thing that for the majority of us, we all say until it gets to a point where we have to make time for it or we have to stack jobs. What would you give as one piece of advice that how you could just take one small step in your daily practices to help you make yourself priority and actually make your own well-being like your number one?
So I think there's probably two things to say there. The first thing is you don't need to be making these massive overhauls. You don't need to be able to, finding an hour a day to do whatever, your HIIT workout. Everyone can find 30 seconds in the day. Everyone can find a couple of minutes here or there, just to maybe do some breathing techniques or something to try and get yourself into a parasympathetic state and out of that chronic fight or flight. Making sure you're drinking enough water, things like that can make a huge difference. So just taking that 30 seconds in the morning to fill up your flasks so you've got those with you to take out during the day, again, can make a real difference. So I think the first thing to say is you don't need to think about it as, needing loads and loads of time. We're talking small steps here, but over time, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. And I think the other thing to say is about habit stacking. So finding the thing that you're already doing in your day and then trying to attach the new thing that you want to do to that. So whether it's when, you're boiling the kettle, what is it that you want to add into your day? Do it then. Or while you're, I don't know, walking upstairs or, something like that. You find the thing that you're already doing and then you attach it to do that. And then it more quickly starts becoming a habit. And then, there's the obvious example for everyone brushes their teeth twice a day, don't they? Why do we do that? Because we've always done that. And we always find the time to do that, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's other little things like that, that you will be able to find the time for in your routine. I get it. We are all busy. I have 2 businesses and 3 children and, the other chaos of life. But it's so much better to find the time now, because as we've already said, if you don't do it now, there will come a point in the future where it does become a problem.
Yeah, I always talk on here whenever this kind of thing comes up about how I personally stacked things just to get me started, and I still do this today. So every time I brush my teeth, I'm either doing squats, like figure of eight rotations, or just something. I'm like, it's not taking me any extra time. Or like you say, when the kettle's boiling, I might do some lunges in the kitchen or just dance around to some music. It's just literally moving my body or doing something with the time I've already got.
Yeah, stand on one leg, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's great for your balance, and that's great for, cognition as we get older to challenge your balance in that way. All those sorts of things. Absolutely. You don't need extra time to do them.
Yeah. I just want to pick up on one more thing before we finish. You mentioned at the beginning of this face yoga. Now, I know what this is because I've heard you talk about this before, but for anyone that has heard this thinking, what the hell is face yoga? Could you just tell us a bit about it?
Of course. So, I mean, we all know we need to look after our bodies. We've been talking about this to, stay fit and healthy and age well. It's exactly the same for your face. So, face yoga, it's about natural, healthy aging. So, it is just exercises, it's self-massage, it's acupressure, it's relaxation exercises, all for your face. And again, as with whatever other exercise you do for your body, the more consistent you can be with it, the more benefit you're going to see in the long term. So finding those times during the day, when you're washing your face or something like that, just being able to do a couple of exercises at that time can be really beneficial. But what I love about face yoga is we can spend more time doing it as well. And we can have, longer sessions where we take an hour, hour and a half, and we do spend that time. It's all about that self-care and just giving yourself time to pause and relax. And really rest, but also whilst doing some lovely face yoga.
I love it. What are the benefits of face yoga? Obviously, you get the relaxation from it.
Yeah, so I mean, if anyone has any sort of little lines or wrinkles or, those things on their face, those dark circles, puffiness around the eyes, if we get a little bit of sagging of the skin or anything like that, that can all be helped with face yoga. And it's never too late. I've had people come to, oh no, it's too late for me now. It honestly isn't. There is always time to, if you're doing it consistently, for it to have an impact.
Amazing. Oh, it's been so helpful. Right, to finish off, could you tell us how we can work with you, Liz? Like, what if we're somebody that is listening to this now, that's maybe approaching burnout, gone through burnout, and we're just looking to really make ourselves a priority and put our health and wellness first? What would be that first step of being able to work with you, or what opportunities do we have to work with you?
Just contact me. I'm always very happy to have just a chat with people and see if I can help in any way. What I offer is one-to-one sort of health and wellbeing strategy for people. It's very bespoke. So it really depends on the support people need. I go into a really detailed medical background, medical history. I spend a long time sort of piecing all the bits of the puzzle together to try and work out what's going on. And then, we talk through things and we make an action plan together about the types of things that might be beneficial in terms of how and what people are eating, how people are exercising, whether there's anything else in sort of lifestyle factors that might need addressing. But yes, it's really bespoke coaching that I offer for people. But yeah, just please do reach out and I would be happy to have a chat and see if I'm able to help at all.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liz, for coming on today. For anyone that's listening to this that has enjoyed this episode, please do leave a review. Make sure you go and connect with Liz. All of her details and links are in the show notes below. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for coming on today, Liz.
Thank you so much.